The great hall of the Galactic Council stretched across 3 miles of polished crystal. Light from distant stars danced through the transparent walls, casting rainbow patterns on the floor, where representatives from 47 different worlds sat in carefully arranged circles. Each species had their own section, designed to meet their unique needs. The Zephyrians floated in their energy fields, their crystalline bodies humming with soft music. The Nebulans drifted in their gas chambers, their cloud-like forms shifting colors with their emotions. The mechanical Karathi stood silent and still, their red sensor lights blinking in patterns that served as their language. Ambassador Thexera of the Zephyrians called the meeting to order. Her crystal body rang like a bell, and the sound echoed through translation devices that turned her musical speech into words each species could understand. She had served on the council for over 200 years, longer than most species even lived. In all that time, she had never seen the council this worried about a single species. Fellow council members, she began, her voice creating soft chimes. We gathered today to discuss the humans. A ripple of concern moved through the hall. The Veltorians, tall and thin like walking trees, swayed nervously. The aquatic delphinoids clicked and whistled in their water tanks. Even the usually calm Karathi increased their blinking patterns. These humans appeared 50 cycles ago, Thexera continued. Since then, they have spread to 23 star systems. They build colonies faster than any species we have seen. They make friends with everyone they meet. This is not normal. Council member Ziloth, a purple-skinned Veltorian, stood to speak. His species was known for their careful thinking and slow decisions. They could live for thousands of years, so they never rushed anything. The humans worry me, he said in his deep, slow voice. They move too fast. They change too quickly. In 50 cycles, they went from 1 planet to 23 systems. My species took 5,000 cycles to spread to 3 systems. The Nebulan representative, a swirling mass of green and blue gases, pulsed with orange worry colors. They make emotional connections, the Nebulan said through its translator. They form bonds with other species like family members. This is dangerous. Emotions lead to unpredictable behavior. Dr. Kethvin, the council's chief researcher, floated in her Zephyrian energy field near the center of the hall. She had studied thousands of species over her long career. Her crystalline form was older and more complex than Thexera's, with deep blue veins running through her transparent body. I have been studying their records, she said. The humans are strange in many ways. They adopt animals from other worlds as pets. They cry when these animals die, even though the animals are not their species. They risk their lives to save beings they have never met. A Karathi unit stepped forward, its metal body gleaming under the starlight. Emotional bonds indicate weakness, it said in the flat electronic voice all Karathi used. Species that form attachments are easy to manipulate. Humans should be simple to control. But Dr. Kethvin's crystal body flickered with uncertainty. I'm not sure about that. Their emotional bonds seem to make them stronger, not weaker. When one human is threatened, others will travel across star systems to help. They have a saying, no one gets left behind. This creates unity that is very powerful. Ambassador Thexera played a worried tune. Tell us about their technology. Primitive but effective, Dr. Kethvin replied. They use nuclear power, which most species abandon early because it is dangerous. They build their ships strong instead of elegant. Their weapons are simple but deadly. They seem to prefer things that work over things that are beautiful. What about their social structure? Asked a representative of the collective minds, a species that shared thoughts across their entire population. Chaotic, Dr. Kethvin said. They have hundreds of different governments on their home world. They argue constantly, yet somehow they cooperate when facing outside threats. They compete with each other, but they also help each other. It makes no logical sense. The aquatic delphinoid representative surfaced in her tank and clicked rapidly. Her translator converted the sounds to words. Have they shown aggression toward council species? No, Dr. Kethvin admitted. This is what puzzles me most. They have the power to take what they want, but instead they trade. They could enslave weaker species, but instead they protect them. The tiny folk of Kepler 442 were being raided by pirates. The humans destroyed the pirates and asked for nothing in return. Murmurs of confusion filled the hall. This behavior made no sense to most council species. The strong always ruled the weak. That was the natural order of things. Ziloth swayed thoughtfully. Perhaps they are planning something. Perhaps this kindness is a trick. For 50 cycles? Dr. Kethovan asked. That would be a very long trick. The Karathi unit processed this data. Perhaps humans are simply inefficient. They waste resources on weak species instead of eliminating them. Ambassador Thexara's crystal body dimmed with worry. I have seen their planet through long-range sensors. It is a beautiful world, but something about it troubles me. The gravity is much stronger than most inhabited worlds. The weather patterns are violent. There are massive storms that would destroy our cities, yet humans live there comfortably. Their sun is also unstable, added Dr. Kethovan. It sends out radiation bursts that would kill most species. But humans just adapt. They build shelters and continue living. The hall fell quiet as each species considered this information. Most inhabited worlds were carefully chosen for their gentle conditions. Stable suns, mild weather, comfortable gravity. The idea of living on a dangerous world by choice was disturbing. What do you recommend? Thexara asked the council. Ziloth spoke first. We should make contact. Learn more about them. If they are dangerous, we need to know. If they are not, perhaps we can guide them to behave more normally. The Nebulan pulsed with agreement colors. Yes, send a delegation. Offer them membership in the council. Teach them our ways of peace and order. The Karathi unit added. Analysis requires more data. Direct contact will provide necessary information. Ambassador Thexara played a decision song, her crystal body brightening. Then it is decided. We will send a diplomatic mission to Earth. I will lead it myself. Dr. Kethovan, you will come as our cultural expert. We will learn what these humans truly want. As the council members prepared to leave, Dr. Kethovan remained floating in her energy field, staring out at the stars. Something nagged at her mind, a feeling she could not name. In her long career, she had studied the ruins of many dead civilizations. There were patterns in how species rose and fell. The humans broke all those patterns. Most species grew slowly, expanded carefully, and built stable societies. The humans grew fast, expanded boldly, and seemed to thrive on change and challenge. Most species avoided danger and sought comfort. The humans seemed to seek out danger and create their own challenges. She thought about the old archives in the deep vaults of the council library. Records from the predecessor civilization, the ancient race that had built the first galactic empire millions of years ago. Those records were mostly damaged and hard to read, but they contained warnings about something in the outer rim of the galaxy. Dr. Kethovan decided she would read those old records before the diplomatic mission began. Perhaps the predecessors had encountered unusual species before. Perhaps their ancient wisdom could help the council understand these strange humans. As she floated through the crystal halls toward the archives, she did not know that her research would soon uncover a truth that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. The humans were not just unusual. They were something the galaxy had been trying to forget for millions of years. The council archives stretched deep underground, carved into the solid rock of the artificial moon that housed the galactic government. Dr. Kethovan descended through levels that grew older and more mysterious the deeper she went. The newest sections held records from the current era, stored in crystal matrices that sang with information. The middle levels contained data from the past million years, when the council first formed after the Great Silence. But Kethovan was going deeper, to the oldest sections where the predecessor records were kept. The predecessors had vanished long before any current species achieved spaceflight. They left behind ruins on 1,000 worlds and fragments of their vast knowledge, stored in devices that barely functioned. Most scholars believed they had simply evolved beyond physical existence. Others thought they had destroyed themselves in some great war. The truth was lost in time. The lowest level of the archives was different from the others. Here the walls were made of strange metal that seemed to absorb light. The air felt heavy and old. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows between rows of ancient storage devices. Many of the machines no longer worked. Others held data so corrupted that only pieces could be recovered. Kethovan floated to the central terminal, a massive construct of black metal and pulsing energy conduits. The interface was designed for beings very different from any current species. She had to use her crystalline form to directly connect with the alien systems, letting her consciousness merge with the ancient data streams. The experience was always disturbing. The predecessor minds had been vast and complex, thinking in ways that hurt to comprehend. Their records were not simple files, but experiences, Memories, emotional impressions mixed with pure data. Touching their information was like swimming in an ocean of alien thoughts. Kethavan searched through millions of years of corrupted records, looking for anything about the outer rim where Earth existed. Most files were damaged beyond repair. Others contained information about species and events that meant nothing to modern minds. But slowly patterns began to emerge. The predecessors had been explorers spreading across the galaxy with the confidence of a species that had never met its equal. They mapped every star system, cataloged every world, contacted every intelligent species they found. For millions of years, they built the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Then something changed. Kethavan found the first reference buried in a military report from the predecessor fleet. The file was badly damaged, but she could make out fragments. Recommend immediate quarantine of sector designation 7749. Species shows unprecedented adaptation to hostile environment. Request for additional purification fleets. The coordinates for sector 7749 matched the location of Earth's solar system. Her crystal body trembled as she dug deeper into the military files. The predecessors had encountered something in that sector that frightened them. This was shocking because the predecessors had never shown fear of anything. They had conquered species that could manipulate gravity, beings that existed in multiple dimensions, entities made of pure energy. Nothing had ever stopped their expansion, until they found Earth. The next file was larger but even more damaged. Kethavan had to piece together fragments like a puzzle made of broken thoughts. The predecessor expedition had found a world unlike any other. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was toxic to most life forms. The weather systems were violent beyond measure. Massive electromagnetic storms swept the planet. Volcanic activity covered entire continents. The oceans were filled with acid and poison. Any normal world with such conditions would be dead. But this world teemed with life. The life forms were adapted to conditions that would instantly kill most galactic species. They thrived in environments that registered as uninhabitable on every scale the predecessors used. Worse, they seemed to grow stronger when faced with new challenges. The dominant species was the most disturbing of all. Kethavan found a fragment of a scientific report that made her energy field flicker with shock. The beings the predecessors found were bipedal, tool-using, and incredibly intelligent. But their intelligence was focused in ways the predecessors had never seen. They thought about survival, conflict, adaptation, and improvement with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The report described creatures that would deliberately seek out danger to test themselves. They competed with each other constantly, not just for resources, but for the joy of competition itself. They formed pack bonds so strong that they would die for strangers if those strangers were considered part of their group. Most disturbing of all, they seemed to view their hostile environment not as an enemy to be escaped, but as a teacher to be embraced. The predecessors tried to make contact. The first expedition was met with curiosity and surprising hospitality. The natives, who called themselves something that translated roughly as humans, welcomed the alien visitors and shared their knowledge freely. They seemed excited to learn about the galaxy beyond their world. But the predecessors made a mistake. They decided that these beings needed to be improved. The humans lived such harsh lives, faced such constant danger, suffered so much. Surely they would want to be relocated to a more comfortable world where they could live in peace. The humans refused. Kethavan found the expedition leader's personal log buried in the deepest part of the file. The entry was filled with confusion and growing alarm. They say they need the challenges. They claim that without struggle they become weak and purposeless. They actually thank their hostile environment for making them strong. This is not rational behavior. No species chooses hardship when comfort is available. The predecessors tried again, offering advanced technology that would make life on Earth easier. The humans accepted some of it, but refused anything that would eliminate their challenges completely. They wanted to earn their improvements through their own effort. This was when the predecessors realized they were dealing with something unprecedented. A species that had evolved not just to survive in hostile conditions, but to require those conditions for psychological and cultural health. The third expedition was larger, carrying terraforming equipment. If the humans would not leave their dangerous world, the predecessors would make the world safe for them. They would calm the storm, stabilize the geology, purify the atmosphere. It would be a gift to these strange but obviously suffering beings. The humans fought back. Kethvin's crystal form grew cold as she read the battle reports. The humans had somehow learned to use predecessor technology against its creators. They fought with a creativity and viciousness that shocked the ancient empire. Worse, they seemed to enjoy the challenge of fighting a superior enemy. The predecessors won the first conflict, but barely. The humans learned from their defeat and prepared for the next attack. When the fourth expedition arrived, they found the humans had built defenses that incorporated captured predecessor technology in ways the original creators had never imagined. The second war lasted longer. The humans lost again, but they inflicted heavy casualties on the predecessor forces. More importantly, they captured more technology and gained more experience. The pattern became clear to the horrified predecessors. Each attack was making the humans stronger. Each defeat taught them new lessons. Each war prepared them better for the next conflict. The final entries Kethvin could recover were filled with a terror she had never seen in predecessor records. These ancient beings, who had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, were afraid of a single species trapped on one dangerous world. The last readable file was a council session from the highest levels of predecessor government. The discussion was about implementing a permanent quarantine around Earth's solar system. No ships would be allowed in or out. The humans would be contained until they destroyed themselves or evolved into something less dangerous. But even this plan was filled with doubt. One predecessor scientist had calculated how long it would take for humans to develop spaceflight on their own. The estimate was terrifyingly short by galactic standards. The same hostile environment that had shaped them into perfect survivors was also driving rapid technological development. The final entry was a single line that made Kethvin's energy field pulse with fear. "They will escape their world eventually. When they do, we must not be here to face them." The file ended abruptly. The next records were from much later, showing the predecessor civilization in rapid collapse. Not from external attack, but from internal panic. They abandoned their colonies, destroyed their fleets, and fled to dimensions beyond physical space. The galaxy's greatest empire had committed species-wide suicide rather than face the possibility of humans reaching the stars. Kethvin disconnected from the ancient terminal and floated in the darkness, her crystal body trembling with shock. The humans had already reached the stars. They were already spreading across the galaxy, and they were doing exactly what the predecessors had feared they would do. They were making friends with everyone they met. She had to warn the Council. The diplomatic mission to Earth was not just making contact with an unusual species. They were approaching the descendants of beings that had driven the galaxy's previous rulers into exile through sheer terror. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in recorded history. Ambassador Thexara's crystal form rang with alarm frequencies as she called the meeting to order. Dr. Kethvin floated beside her, surrounded by data displays showing the recovered predecessor files. The hall buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from every major species gathered to hear the impossible news. "Fellow council members," Thexara began, her voice creating sharp, urgent chimes. "Dr. Kethvin has made a discovery that changes everything we know about the humans." Xyloth, the elderly Veltorian, swayed forward. His usual calm was gone, replaced by visible agitation. "The archives spoke of Earth before. How is this possible? The predecessors vanished millions of years ago." Dr. Kethvin activated her display showing the ancient records. "They did not just vanish, they fled. And they fled because of the humans' ancestors." The hall erupted in confusion. The nebulans shifted to shocked yellow colors. The Karathi units increased their processing cycles, red lights blinking rapidly. Even the usually silent deep thinkers of Arcturus emerged from their meditation tanks to listen. "Explain," commanded General Vextar of the warrior caste, a species that had never lost a battle in 10,000 years of recorded history. Dr. Kethvin began displaying the recovered data. Images of Earth filled the air above the assembly, but not the Earth the Council knew. This was Earth as the predecessors had found it, a world of incredible violence and beauty. Massive storms raged across continents. Volcanoes exploded with the force of star weapons. Earthquakes split the ground open like wounds. Lightning filled the skies with electric fire. "This is the world that created humanity," Kethvin said. "Look at these numbers." Data streams flowed around the hall. gravity readings that would crush most council species, atmospheric pressure that would implode their ships, temperature ranges that swung from freezing to boiling, radiation levels that would sterilize most worlds. Impossible, whispered the aquatic delphinoid representative. No complex life could evolve in such conditions. Not only did it evolve, Dr. Kethoven continued, it thrived. The predecessor records show a world filled with predators more dangerous than anything in our databases. Creatures that hunt in packs, kill for territory, and fight to the death for mating rights. And the humans evolved alongside all of this. She displayed more images. Ancient humans hunting animals 10 times their size. Primitive human settlements built next to active volcanoes. Early human cultures that practiced ritualized combat as entertainment. Council member Ziloth's bark-like skin had turned pale. They chose to live near the volcanoes? They did not just live near them, Dr. Kethoven said grimly. They built their settlements there because the volcanic soil was fertile. They learned to predict eruptions and use the danger to their advantage. When other species would flee, humans adapted. The Karathi General Vextar processed this information. Show us their combat capabilities. Dr. Kethoven hesitated, then displayed files from human military history. The Council watched in growing horror as data showed conflicts involving millions of combatants, weapons that could destroy continents, strategies that sacrificed thousands to save millions. In their second global war, she explained, humans deployed weapons powered by splitting atoms. They used them against their own species. The radiation poisoned vast areas of their planet for decades. Any other species would have banned such weapons forever. What did humans do? Asked the collective mind representative, its shared consciousness rippling with dread. They built bigger ones, Dr. Kethoven said quietly. They created weapons that could destroy their entire planet. Then they pointed them at each other for 50 years in something they called the Cold War. They came close to ending their own civilization multiple times. The hall fell silent. The concept of deliberately creating world-ending weapons was beyond most species' understanding, but they did not destroy themselves, observed Ambassador Thexera. No, Dr. Kethoven agreed. Instead, they learned to live with the threat. They built systems to prevent accidental war. They negotiated treaties. They turned their weapons research into peaceful technology. They took the most dangerous situation possible and made it work. General Vextar's warrior instincts were alarmed. Show us their current military strength. The data that appeared made the entire assembly recoil. Human fleets carried weapons that could crack planets. Their soldiers wore armor that would stop anything in the Council's arsenal. Their tactics manuals read like horror stories to species raised on civilized warfare. Look at this training video, Dr. Kethoven said, activating a human military recording. The Council watched human soldiers practicing combat in environments that would kill most galactic species. They fought in crushing depths underwater, in the vacuum of space in extreme heat and cold. They practiced until exhaustion, then practiced more. When one soldier was injured, others would carry him and keep fighting. They trained for situations that should never happen. The Nebulan representative pulsed in confusion. To humans, every situation is one that might happen, Dr. Kethoven replied. They prepare for disasters that have never occurred because they assume eventually everything bad will happen. She brought up more files. Human disaster response teams that ran toward dangers other species would flee from. Human rescue workers who entered burning buildings, collapsed mines, and sinking ships to save strangers. Human doctors who volunteered to fight plagues in war zones. They do not just adapt to danger, she explained. They seek it out when others are in trouble. They have a psychological need to help even when helping might kill them. Council member Zilyoth swayed in thought. This explains their rapid expansion. They are not avoiding dangerous systems. They are attracted to them. Dr. Kethoven nodded. Look at their colony worlds. Kepler 442 has gravity twice galactic standard. New Terra orbits a binary star system. Haven Colony is built on a planet with no atmosphere, where one mistake means death. They choose the worlds we would never settle. Why? Demanded the crystalline hive mind, its shared thoughts producing harmonic confusion. Because challenge makes them happy. Dr. Kethoven said simply, easy lives make them depressed. Safe environments make them weak. They need struggle the way we need food. She displayed psychological studies from human colonies. The safest, most comfortable settlements had the highest rates of mental illness. The most dangerous frontier worlds had the happiest. most productive populations. This is not logical, protested the Vulcan-like logic cast representative. It is perfectly logical for their evolution, Dr. Kethvin countered. They evolved on a world where only the strong, clever, and cooperative survived. Those traits are so deeply embedded that they cannot be satisfied with safety and comfort. The implications were staggering. The Council's entire civilization was built on the principle of avoiding conflict and maximizing comfort. The human psychological makeup was the exact opposite. Ambassador Thexara played a worried tune. What does this mean for our diplomatic mission? Dr. Kethvin's crystal form dimmed. I studied their response to our first contact message. They are excited to meet us. They see us as a new challenge, a new puzzle to solve. They want to learn everything about us, help us with our problems, and probably invite us to dangerous sporting events. This does not sound threatening, the aquatic delphinoid observed. That is what makes it terrifying, Dr. Kethvin replied. They do not want to conquer us. They want to adopt us. They see the galaxy as one big family that needs protection and guidance. They think our peaceful, comfortable lives are evidence that we need help. The reality sank in slowly. The humans were not planning to destroy galactic civilization. They were planning to fix it whether the galaxy wanted to be fixed or not. General Vextar processed the tactical situation. Can we defeat them in open combat? Dr. Kethvin displayed the combat analysis. Their individual soldiers are stronger than our best warriors. Their weapons are more powerful than our fleet armaments. Their tactics are more flexible than our strategies. But worse than all of that, they enjoy fighting. To them, a difficult battle is entertainment. She showed recordings of human sporting events. Millions of humans gathering to watch other humans engage in ritualized combat, cheering when their favorites were injured, celebrating violence as art. They have turned warfare into recreation, she explained. They practice fighting for fun. They compete to see who can endure the most pain. They have entire industries built around simulated combat. The council members looked at each other with growing alarm. Their own species had eliminated conflict through careful diplomacy and resource management. The idea of choosing to fight for entertainment was incomprehensible. What do you recommend? Ambassador Thexara asked. Dr. Kethvin was quiet for a long moment. I recommend we proceed with the diplomatic mission as planned, but not to evaluate them, to let them evaluate us. Explain. The humans are coming whether we invite them or not. They are already spreading across the galaxy. Our choice is not whether to make contact. Our choice is whether that contact happens on our terms or theirs. She displayed the final piece of evidence, human expansion projections. Within a century, they would encounter every major council species. Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Federation starship Endeavour read the council's diplomatic message for the third time, trying not to laugh out loud. The transmission had arrived with enough encryption and security protocols to protect state secrets, but the actual content was almost adorable in its nervousness. The message was formal and polite, filled with elaborate courtesies and careful phrasing, but underneath all the diplomatic language, Sarah could read the real meaning. Hello, terrifying death world species. Please don't kill us all. Would you like to join our peaceful civilization? We promise we have nice things. Sarah was a veteran of the frontier colonies, a woman who had spent her career in places where one mistake meant death for everyone under her command. She had fought pirates, survived system failures in deep space, and once held a failing colony together for 3 months while waiting for rescue. She was exactly the kind of person Earth sent to make first contact with unknown species. She was also someone who found the Council's obvious terror both touching and hilarious. XO. Martinez, she called to her second-in-command. Come look at this. Commander Maria Martinez had grown up on Haven Colony, where the average day included at least one life-threatening equipment failure. She was tough, smart, and had never met a problem she could not solve with enough applied stubbornness. She read the message over Sarah's shoulder, her dark eyes brightening with amusement. They're scared of us, Maria observed. Terrified, Sarah agreed. Look at this part where they ask about our aggressive expansion patterns. They think we're conquering the galaxy, aren't we? Asked Lieutenant James Park, the ship's cultural specialist. He was young for his position, but he had degrees in xenopsychology and linguistics from Earth's best universities. More importantly, he had spent 2 years living with the tiny folk of Kepler 442. learning their language and customs. We're exploring, Sarah corrected. Big difference. Conquerors try to control everything. Explorers just want to see what's out there and maybe help with any problems they find. She pulled up the navigation charts, showing the locations of human colonies and outposts. To alien eyes, it probably looked like a military expansion, but Sarah saw something different. A network of rescue stations, research bases, and trade posts designed to help anyone who needed it. They mention our emotional attachments to other species, Maria noted, reading further into the message. They seem to think that's a weakness, Sarah shook her head. Poor bastards. They've been living in a galaxy where everyone only cares about their own species. No wonder they're so paranoid. Lieutenant Park brought up files on the known council species. Look at their colony patterns, Captain. They only settle worlds with perfect conditions. Stable stars, mild weather, no geological activity. They avoid anything that might be challenging. That explains a lot, Sarah said, studying the data. They've been living easy lives for so long they've forgotten how to handle problems. When they meet us, they see a species that actively seeks out problems to solve, Maria finished. To them we must look insane, Sarah grinned. We kind of are insane by their standards. Remember the Kepler colony? We built a city on a planet where the ground shifts every few years. The locals thought we were crazy. Until the next seismic event, Lieutenant Park added. Then they realized our crazy construction methods were the only reason the city survived. Sarah stood and walked to the view screen, looking out at the stars. Each point of light potentially held new friends, new challenges, new ways to help. The idea that other species found this threatening was genuinely puzzling to her. They want to send a diplomatic mission to Earth, she said, reading the message again. Full cultural exchange, official first contact, the whole ceremony. What's our response? Maria asked. Sarah thought for a moment. Earth's government had given her broad authority to handle first contact situations. The council species seemed peaceful if nervous. They deserved a proper human welcome. Draft a response, she said. Tell them we'd be delighted to host their delegation. Let's show them what human hospitality looks like. Lieutenant Park looked concerned.
Captain, with respect, human hospitality might not be what they're expecting.
Our idea of a friendly welcome might terrify them. Sarah considered this. Human welcoming traditions included competitive sports, dangerous recreational activities, and food spicy enough to hospitalize most aliens. The council delegation was probably expecting something more civilized. You're right, she said. We'll need to tone things down. Plan something gentle and safe. She began composing the response message, trying to strike the right balance between friendly and non-threatening. After several drafts, she settled on an invitation that seemed appropriately peaceful. The council delegation was invited to visit Earth for a cultural exchange program. The itinerary would include tours of human cities, meetings with government officials, and educational presentations about human history and culture. There would be recreational activities carefully chosen to be safe and enjoyable for alien physiologies. Sarah listed the planned activities. Visits to Yellowstone National Park to observe Earth's unique geological features, swimming excursions to experience Earth's marine environment, and attendance at sporting events to witness human recreational competition. Each activity was described in the most innocuous terms possible. She sent the message and immediately called a meeting with her senior staff. If the council was sending a delegation to Earth, humanity needed to be prepared. All right, people, she said as her officers assembled in the briefing room. We're about to host visitors from an advanced galactic civilization. They're nervous about us, so we need to make a good first impression. How nervous? Asked Dr. Susan Wright, the ship's xenobiologist. Sarah shared the council's message and her analysis. The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. They think we're apex predators, Dr. Wright said slowly. From their perspective, we probably are. Look at their evolution, Lieutenant Park added, pulling up biological data on the council species. Most of them evolved on garden worlds. No major predators, stable climates, abundant resources. They've never faced serious survival pressure. Commander Martinez laughed. No wonder they find us scary. To them, we're probably like tigers that learn to use tools. Worse, Dr. Wright corrected. Tigers only hunt when they're hungry. We actively seek out challenges for fun. Sarah studied the biological data with growing understanding. The council species had evolved in environments so safe and stable that they had never developed humanity's survival instincts. They had no concept of enjoying danger or finding satisfaction in overcoming obstacles. "This is going to be interesting," she said. "They're expecting us to be conquering warlords. Instead, they'll find out we're protective older siblings who think their problems are adorable." "That might actually be worse," Dr. Wright observed. "Conquerors are at least predictable. Protective siblings who insist on helping whether you want help or not. That's terrifying in a completely different way." Sarah began to understand the real challenge of first contact. The council species were afraid humanity would destroy their peaceful civilization, but humanity's actual plans to protect, improve, and integrate with galactic society might be even more disruptive to their way of life. "We need to be careful," she decided. "They're not ready for full-intensity human friendship. We'll have to ease them into it." Lieutenant Park looked skeptical. "Captain, with respect, I don't think there's any such thing as low-intensity human friendship. We're going to want to help them with their problems, introduce them to dangerous recreational activities, and probably invite them to family barbecues." "What's wrong with barbecues?" Commander Martinez asked. "Nothing if you're human," Dr. Wright replied. "But our barbecue sauce would probably hospitalize most of the council delegation. And that's before we get to the part where we cook meat over open fires for fun." Sarah began to realize the scope of the cultural gap they were dealing with. Human normal was alien terrifying. Human friendly was alien overwhelming. Human helpful was alien apocalyptic. "New plan," she said. "We'll create a special Earth experience designed for very sheltered alien visitors. Think of it as training wheels for human civilization." She began outlining a careful program that would introduce the council delegation to humanity's nature gradually, safe activities that would demonstrate human values without triggering panic, cultural exchanges that would show humanity's protective instincts without overwhelming their guests. "What about when they realize we're treating them like children?" Lieutenant Park asked. Sarah grinned. "By then, hopefully they'll understand that we treat our children very, very well." As her staff began planning the most important diplomatic mission in human history, Sarah felt the familiar excitement of a new challenge. The council thought they were making contact with dangerous predators. Instead, they would discover that humanity was something much more complex and ultimately more threatening to their static way of life. They would learn that humans were evolution's answer to the question, what if a species was too stubborn to let anything stay broken? The galaxy was about to find out what happened when an irresistible force of helpful determination met the immovable object of comfortable stagnation. 6 months after the council delegation returned from Earth, Ambassador Thexera found herself in a situation no diplomat in galactic history had ever faced. She was trying to explain to the emergency assembly why 3 different interstellar conflicts had been resolved by humans who had not been invited to participate. The Great Hall of the Council was in chaos. Representatives from 47 species were all talking at once, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of confusion. The Zephyrians were ringing alarm frequencies, the Nebulans were pulsing distress colors, and the Karathi units were processing so fast their cooling systems were overheating. "Order," Thexara called, her crystal body brightening to command attention. "We must address these developments systematically." Council member Zealoth, still recovering from his cultural exchange experience on Earth, swayed weakly as he spoke. "The humans have fundamentally misunderstood the concept of diplomatic neutrality." Dr. Kethvin floated beside a massive holographic display showing the recent incidents. "Let me summarize what has occurred in the past standard cycle since formal contact was established." The first case appeared on the display, the Karathi-Zephyrian trade dispute. What had been a complex financial disagreement involving 17 different treaty provisions had been resolved when a human trade mediator named David Kim simply asked both sides to explain it like I'm 5 years old. The human approach was unprecedented, Dr. Kethvin explained. Instead of studying our legal frameworks, Mr. Kim ignored them entirely. He asked what each side actually wanted, then suggested solutions that had never been considered because they were not covered by existing treaties. The Karathi representative, Unit Prime admitted reluctantly, human solutions were more efficient than traditional diplomatic protocols. Conflict resolution time decreased by 97.3%. The second case was even more disturbing to traditional diplomatic thinking. The aquatic delphinoids and the gas giant nebulans had been engaged in a territorial dispute over mining rights in a contested system. The argument had been ongoing for over 200 years, with both sides filing increasingly complex legal briefs. Then Captain Sarah Chen had arrived uninvited with a squadron of human ships. Captain Chen's solution violated every principle of diplomatic law. The Nebulan representative pulsed in frustrated orange. She suggested that both species stop arguing about who owned the mining rights and instead work together to extract the resources more efficiently. The concept of cooperation instead of competition was foreign to both parties. Dr. Kethovan continued, but when Captain Chen demonstrated human mining techniques that could triple the output while having the environmental impact, both species agreed to try her approach. Ambassador Thexara's crystal body dimmed with worry. The results were successful, but the precedent is terrifying. The humans are resolving conflicts by ignoring our legal systems entirely. The third case was the most dramatic. The warrior caste of General Vextar had been engaged in an honor war with the Crystal Collective over an insult delivered 3 generations ago. Both sides had been building fleets and preparing for a conflict that would devastate entire systems. Human conflict resolution specialist Maria Santos had ended the war in a single day. Specialist Santos challenged both sides to a ritual combat, Dr. Kethovan reported. But instead of traditional warfare, she introduced them to something humans call paintball. The holographic display showed footage of proud warrior caste soldiers and dignified Crystal Collective minds running through artificial terrain, firing paint pellets at each other and laughing. The sight was so bizarre that several council members stopped their discussions to stare. They enjoyed it, General Vextar admitted, his warrior pride clearly struggling with the memory. The combat was challenging but non-lethal. Honor was satisfied without actual bloodshed. It was educational. The humans have weaponized fun, the Crystal Collective representative harmonized in confused tones. They have created warfare as entertainment. We do not understand how this is possible. Ambassador Thexara called for order again. These incidents, while successful, raise serious questions about human integration into galactic society. They are solving our problems, but they are doing it by changing the fundamental nature of how we solve problems. Dr. Kethovan brought up the real issue that was causing panic throughout the council. The humans are not content to solve individual conflicts. They are studying our entire civilization and identifying what they consider systemic problems. She displayed a report that had been transmitted to every council world. Preliminary assessment of galactic civilization, opportunities for improvement. By the Human Cultural Integration Committee, the report was terrifying in its thoroughness and its casual assumption that galactic civilization needed improvement. The humans had identified 47 major issues with current council society and provided suggested solutions for each one. They think our divorce rate is too low. The aquatic delphinoid representative observed in bewilderment. They consider stable, lifelong pairings to be emotionally stagnant. They want to introduce competitive sports to every council world, added the collective mind representative. They believe that physical competition builds character and promotes mental health. Worse, Ziloth swayed dramatically. They want to establish what they call adventure tourism. They plan to take council citizens to dangerous environments for recreational purposes. The hall erupted in confused discussion again. The concept of seeking danger for pleasure was so alien to most council species that they could barely process it. But perhaps most disturbing, Dr. Kethovan continued, is their proposal for conflict resolution reform. They want to replace our entire diplomatic system with something they call common-sense problem-solving. She displayed the human proposal. Instead of complex legal frameworks and lengthy negotiations, the humans suggested that disputes be resolved by asking simple questions. What does each side really want? What would happen if they tried working together? What's the simplest solution that makes everyone reasonably happy? It works, admitted the Nebulan representative reluctantly. Every conflict they have touched has been resolved quickly and efficiently. But the precedent is disturbing. If word spreads that problems can be solved simply, what happens to our traditional institutions? Ambassador Thexara understood the real crisis. The Council's entire civilization was built on careful complexity, elaborate protocols, and cautious consensus building. The humans were proving that most of these systems were unnecessary barriers to actually solving problems. There is another issue, Dr. Kethoven said quietly. The humans are making friends. She displayed communication intercepts from across council space. Human trade ships were being invited to stay for cultural exchanges. Human engineers were being asked to help with infrastructure problems. Human teachers were being requested to establish educational programs. They are not conquering us through force, Dr. Kethoven explained. They are conquering us through competence and genuine care. Species are voluntarily requesting human assistance because the humans deliver results. The Karathi Unit Prime processed this data. Human assistance protocols are efficient and effective. Request for human aid has increased by 340% in the past cycle. That's the problem, Ambassador Thexara said. The humans want to help everyone. They see suffering and immediately try to fix it. They see inefficiency and immediately try to improve it. They see conflict and immediately try to resolve it. This sounds beneficial, the Crystal Collective observed. It is beneficial, Dr. Kethoven agreed. That's what makes it so disruptive. The humans are changing our entire civilization by being helpful. The real issue became clear as she displayed the latest reports from council worlds that had accepted human assistance. Crime rates were dropping because humans had introduced community policing concepts. Economic efficiency was improving because humans had shared resource management techniques. Even birth rates were changing because humans had introduced concepts of work-life balance. They are not just solving our problems, Ambassador Thexara realized. They are teaching us how to solve our own problems. They are making us more like them. The hall fell silent as the implications sank in. The humans were not replacing galactic civilization. They were upgrading it. They were taking a stable but stagnant society and introducing the one thing it had been missing, the drive to constantly improve. What do we do? Asked General Vextar. Can we stop them? Dr. Kethoven displayed the final piece of evidence. Satisfaction surveys from council worlds with human contact. Happiness indices were rising. Productivity was increasing. Population growth was stabilizing. Mental health problems were decreasing. Stop them from what? She asked. Making our lives better? Solving problems we had given up on? Teaching us that improvement is possible? Ambassador Thexara's crystal body pulsed with a complex harmony of fear and hope. The humans have presented us with a choice. We can maintain our old ways and gradually become irrelevant, or we can embrace their approach and become something new. What will we become? The collective mind asked. Better, Dr. Kethoven said simply. The humans see potential in everything. They believe that any problem can be solved,